Good Sunday evening, everybody. I'm going to begin talking here in just 60 seconds. Going to hold off and let some people file in. It always takes a little bit for everyone to join on in. Good Sunday evening, everybody. I'm going to... If you are watching this recorded, just bear with us for a couple minutes and then we'll get rolling. So while we're waiting for people to come in here, time for some story time. Today I had a close encounter with a black bear. Live on a little farm homestead. We've got chickens, goats, and grow vegetables, and we've got our first beehive this year. And walked outside to see a big old black bear about 5 feet up in our chestnut tree right next to the beehive. And so I'm used to seeing black bears on the trail, and you clap and yell and they turn around and run in the opposite direction very quickly. So I ran and got a machete and a shovel and started clanging them together and yelling at it. And he looked back at me and started smacking his jaws and huffing at me. And so I knew this was a different scenario. And of course, at this point, I had obviously, opened a door to the house and ensured that I would be able to outrun the bear back to the house with the amount of distance I had to cover. But yeah, he eventually climbed down, and I gave a couple little fake bluffs where I lunged towards him, and he made his way into the woods. But he's going to be back because he was not that scared of me. So we're going to have to set up some electric fencing around that hive if we want to keep our honey and bees alive. So that was today's excitement. Got some adrenaline pumping. So let's see, it's about 8:30 here. We'll wait just a wee bit longer and then we'll get going. So one other thing I want to touch on that came to my attention today, and it's obviously been on pretty apparent so far, but with this rush in the cryptocurrency space, not only do we see a bunch of altcoins coming up that really don't have much behind them in terms of fundamentals, a lot of hype, and everybody trying to make their buck in the space, we see the same thing with YouTube analysts and technical analysts. And the last thing I'm going to try and do is start any kind of YouTube feuds or competition or ego or anything like that. I would much rather have collaborative interactions with people, and there certainly are collaborative, mutually beneficial relationships that can be had in the space. But just want to make everybody aware that you need to be double checking and making sure that these people know what they're talking about to a degree. And the things that you want to look at first, the things that I said that you want to look at are subscribers and views, just to have a sense of what's going on overall. But I saw someone with a bunch of subscribers, more than me, and a bunch of views, more than I get on my videos. And they posted something today, and I'm not going to give any names or anything, but it was just a really wrong chart. And it was just technically wrong. And he had the same opinion as me that we're going to see blue sky breakouts in Bitcoin, but it was just, the name of the pattern was wrong, and the support line was put in the wrong place. And so just a word of caution that the things that you should be checking on is, number one, obviously back checking what these people are saying to some degree, but looking at, how long has this YouTube account been around? Have they been making videos for 2-3 months, or have they been making videos for 2-3 years? How many videos have they put out? Things like that, because you can buy subscribers and you can buy views on your videos pretty darn easily. And I know a lot of people do that. So that was a bit of a wake-up call for me, just because I had known this analyst in the past, and I had given them a certain level of respect based on, their viewership. And then that came to my realization, oh yeah, that doesn't really mean a whole lot in this space. So that's something definitely want to be aware of. Also, I've been working on the course, putting out a cryptocurrency course in terms of trading strategy and how I've been navigating the space. I've been working on that all weekend and making a pretty good dent, making the slides and organizing the lesson plan and all of that. And it will be out. I'm aiming for second half of August. I am going to Mexico, and I really am only limited to weekends where I can work on it. So doing it as fast as I can and as efficiently and as best I can, but it is still going to be a few weeks out, perhaps a month out, but still steadily chugging away. And I actually do enjoy doing it. It is very motivating to do. So it's a lot of fun, believe it or not. So Let's get into the big three here. Then I'm going to open it up to some altcoins from some member requests. I'm going to look at IOTA, Rep, and Stratus. And then depending on how much time we have left, I'm going to open it up to see what members' questions are and what else they want looked at. And I'm going to try and be on here for an hour. That puts us at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. So let's get going. So we've been consolidating all weekend. It's been a very clear consolidating pattern. It's been boring at times, which, is part of the space. It does happen. So let's look at Bitcoin on the daily time frame. Inside bars. So inside bars show us the equilibrium patterns forming, the tightening range, higher lows and lower highs. We're going green, red. And here we are right in the middle of the range of the previous candlestick, as this candlestick is only 30 minutes old. So we are on to Monday's candlestick technically. And I do believe we are going to see a break, perhaps not of these inside bars, but we are going to see a break of the 4-hour equilibrium pattern tonight. That's pretty much a guarantee at this point. And we'll look at those levels in just a moment. But in terms of the daily inside bar, if you are using these inside bars as your signals, a bull break occurs at 28.48 and a bear break occurs at 26.91. So those are the levels that you want to be watching if you are looking for a signal on when to enter a trade, or if you're already in a position and you want to breathe easy. Bulls need that break of 28.48 to see some nice continuation up towards that all-time high. And in this recent trading that we've been seeing, we've gotten within 5%, under 5% away from that all-time high. So we are very close. We're just not there yet. You can see the volume is dropping off with this pattern. That is obviously very common of these equilibrium patterns as they play out. And let's now look at it on the 4-hour time frame. And that shows you a little bit more clearly. And I'll tell you why I have these lines here. But right now we've got our high, low, lower high, higher low, lower high, higher low, and we're very close to a break. So I've got a support line at our most recent higher low. That's down at, I'm going to round here on Bitcoin, that's down at 26.91. And I've got a resistance line at our most recent lower high, and that's up at 28.16. And I've also got another resistance line at our second lower high, and that's up at 28.70. So that's where we stand right now. This uptrend support line, that's coming from the bottom that we saw before the breakout on the news. And we can see we've hit this trend line multiple times, bouncing off of it, and here we are coming right up to it. So this trend line is going to guide us to some degree in terms of breaking this pattern. And you can see how tight we are with, overnight we're going to have this current candlestick plus 2 more candlesticks form on this 4-hour time frame before 8 a.m. Eastern. And it is possible to stay in this tightening range until morning, but the break could happen at any moment. So we definitely need to be vigilant for that as it does approach. So I am still bullish in this space. I gave my last reasoning in the last video fundamentally as to why I think the bulls stand to make more money, why I feel like the whales would be bullish up here because of the good news in the market. That news is priced in, by the way. So all of that news is definitely priced in to the degree that everybody is expecting August 1st to be a non-event and no split. So the hype of that has died down, and that's why we're consolidating right now. So I'm going to be looking for a bull break. I currently have a position, and I've set myself up in this position where I will exit if we break this most recent higher low of 26.92. And if we break this pattern, I will exit. And if you saw the last, I think it was 2 videos ago that I did when we got that litecoin, that bull break of that $45 level, and it pretty much happened right as I was recording that video, or right after. The video was uploading, and that breakout occurred. And we saw $2 to the upside. I captured just over $2 on my trade. I went all in at 45 right as resistance was breaking, and I sold in the 47s. And pretty much what I'm risking on this Bitcoin trade, and this is the longest position that I've held in probably over a month, holding it the past 2 days. But what I'm risking on this trade is less than what I made on that trade, and that was a 20-minute trade. So that just shows you risk to reward. If I'm only risking the amount that I made on a 20-minute trade two or 3 days ago, that is clearly an acceptable risk for the trade that I'm trying to make. And in terms of reward, I'm looking for 3,300. I'm looking for a break of 3,000 and 10% on top of that in order to get that risk to reward ratio that I'm looking for. So let's zoom in a little bit more. So we have a very clear, this is the pattern that you are watching if you are watching Bitcoin. You're watching the daily inside bar and you're watching the 4-hour higher low and lower high. If you want more detail, you go to the 1 hourly and you can see that same pattern. You can see the trend line or the resistance and support line and trend line all zoomed in with a little bit more detail. We just had a big bear volume dump, And now we're seeing inside bars on the hourly as we tighten up. One thing that I've been watching a lot of the trading, as I'm working on the course, I always have the charts up and I'm keeping an eye on the bids and the asks and things like that. There's a lot of buying going on at the bid. And obviously that means there's a lot of selling going on as well. Someone's always selling if someone's buying. But there's a lot of solid orders on the bid and they're getting filled. So people are loading up. Today there was an 80 BTC order at some level. And, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars that someone loaded up on Bitcoin. And rather than buying at the ask and driving the price up, people are buying on the bid and they are loading Bitcoin, in my opinion, anticipating it to go higher. Obviously, it means someone is selling to them as well. But there are many times on these dumps when we're in this equilibrium pattern, what we see is a 200 to 400 BTC wall show up. And it's a fake wall. Anytime it gets close to getting bought, it leaves. But it's driving the price down and making sure all the bids get filled as we drop to the downside. And that's why you see these big bear volume spikes. And then it disappears once we hit a bottom and once we see the bulls show up and start buying that oversold bounce. So that is definitely going on, in my opinion. I am looking at support and I am looking at bulls buying on the bids and not really ready to hit the ask just yet. But we've gotten pretty close to the point where $1 million, which is not a lot of money to a lot of these whales, $1 million on the ask will take us up to 3,000 or close to that level. It will break a lot of resistance. So it's going to be a very interesting overnight session tonight. And I will definitely be waking up every 2 hours to be checking in on things. And if you set a stop loss, you don't have to do that. But I always want to be watching what's going on. So checking in now. Let's look at Ethereum. Look at these daily charts, or these daily candles. Inside bar after inside bar. There was one candlestick here that did make a slight bull break by $1, but obviously we didn't see any kind of follow through. But we've got inside bar after inside bar, tighter, tighter, tighter. Look at the higher low pattern and the lower high pattern, and we are extremely tight. So if you are trading daily inside bars, the bear break occurs at 221.20 and the bull break occurs at 234.35. And let's zoom in on the 4-hour time frame and see how that looks. So here is that pattern, and we can draw all kinds of lines here in terms of keeping our visuals on the correct supports and resistances. Our most recent higher low and lower high on this 4-hour time frame are right there. I'm looking at 221.20 and 237.67. So these are the levels that I would be using. If we get a break of 221.20, I would want to be cash. I would want to be out of that position. Look at how textbook this volume is. Higher, lower peak, lower peak, lower peak, lower peak, non-existent. We are going to see a volume spike and we're going to see a break of this pattern either late middle of the night tonight or early tomorrow morning. And I do believe that obviously because of the correlations in these big three, that they are all going to break in the same direction. So if we see Bitcoin break the 4-hour time frame bullish, then we are going to be looking for the break of Ethereum bullish as well. So that is the clear pattern on Ethereum that you're going to be watching. And that resistance, again, all about 237.67. And you can see just how tight we have gotten. And we did just see a dump right now, so that flushed things out. We got oversold. This was a nice buying opportunity if you did not have a position. And the 5-minute RSI dropped down into the mid-20s here on Ethereum. That was a buy down in the mid-220s. And Bitcoin just had a dump on the 5-minute time frame. The RSI got down even lower. We were down in the teens. And that was a really nice entry as well. So now we're trying to see a recovery. And looking at the most detail here, we want to see the bulls break 27.63, the high of this bounce at this point. We're about to test it. And let's zoom in on Ethereum. Ethereum bulls want to recover and break 229.71. So you can see what I'm doing here, just zooming in on every time frame. I get more details. So I look at the 4-hour time frame, I get our broad levels. I look at the 5-minute time frame, and I can see very much smaller, minuscule details as to what's going on. And there is such a thing as too much information. You don't want to be constantly looking at these levels. And there's a lot of people, when this consolidation is going on, that every time we see a pullback and a higher low form, they start to say, oh no, what's going on? Has everything changed? Are you selling? Are you buying? When it's if you set your stop loss level and you have your trade game plan established, those questions are not floating around in your head. It's just very black and white. You're a robot. You say, okay, if this level breaks, I'm out of this trade. If this level does not break, I'm in this trade. Everything else, it's worth noting, and you can get some details and you can get some action as to what's going on by watching the bid and the ask like I just described with people buying on the bid. But in terms of, changing your game plan based on what a 4-hour candlestick is doing and things like that, you don't want to be constantly over analyzing things. Once your game plan is established, you stick with it, because if you change your game plan, which you can do in some situations, it is valid, but that is subject to emotion when you change your game plan. So my game plan is set in stone. I'm not touching this trade unless we break this 2691 support and we break the higher low pattern on the 4-hour time frame. So Ethereum, clear levels. Let's check in Litecoin. It's a different setup than Litecoin. Ethereum and Bitcoin are stronger correlated than Litecoin is, but we have a nice uptrend here. Let's start with the daily like we did with the other ones. Daily time frame. One thing I want to point out here on Litecoin is a heads up, because there is a potential for a bearish reversal head and shoulders pattern. Now, obviously, in my opinion, we will only see this play out if we see Bitcoin and Ethereum make a bear break as well. But if that does play out, this is a bearish reversal head and pattern setup where if we were to pull back, lose the higher low pattern that we are currently in, which we will zoom in on the 4-hour time frame in just a moment, we would be looking down at this very key support right at about 37, or make that $38. You can see we've bounced off this level multiple times. We have not seen a candlestick close below $38. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 have touched or bounced below and then recovered to keep that support. So a close of a candlestick under 38 would be a bear break of this bearish reversal head and shoulders pattern. But at this point, that's 15% to the downside. And again, it would require a break on all those other time frames, on all those the other big three, to see this play out. So we do have an uptrend on the 4-hour time frame, just like Bitcoin does. And it's a very nice uptrend. We just bounced right off of it, and here we are again. So the range that I'm watching right now on Litecoin, let's fix some of these lines up. I'm going to be looking at our most recent higher low, and it's almost a double bottom down here, where we had 44 on the dot and then 44.10. So 44 is a very important short-term support. In terms of resistance, the most recent lower high was up here at 45.92. So that's a key level. And the second one after that is 47.52. And you can see we've been struggling at this 47.48 range multiple times over the past few days here on Litecoin. So we're getting very tight between this uptrend line, between our higher low pattern, between our lower high pattern. Just like the other names, Litecoin is just as tight, and we are very close to a break. So looking in on the hourly time frame for a bit more details, we can see that little double low and the lower high pattern, and getting very tight. Like I said, another 8 hours overnight tonight, and it's more than that, another 10 hours overnight, likely to see a break here. And when we see a break of a pattern like this, if it just occurs because time is running out, and let's say we just trade sideways and we break this uptrend support line, but there's no volume behind that move, it's not as valid. You need to see the volume along with the break of the tightening range. So that's why I don't look at the support lines as significantly. I need to see volume and breaks of higher lows and lower highs in terms of clear breaks of tightening patterns. So volume is a very important factor. Look for that volume spike. It's going to be very notable when it does happen. Again, back to the 4-hour time frame, you can see the last couple days of action, it's just been slowly drifting off in terms of volume, and we're going to see spikes here when these breaks are clear against all three of these big three. Those spikes are going to occur. So now let's look at some of these altcoins that were requested by members. We're going to start off with IOTA, and we'll look at IOTA and Bitcoin, and same thing. I always start my analysis on the longer term time frames. Here's the daily chart, and then I zoom in for more details. So we have a double top, and I'm gonna forget the zeros here. Just looking at 14, and this is IOTA Bitcoin. So 14 was a top, and then 14, a little double top. And now we're pulling back and trying to form a higher low. Our all-time low down here is 7. We have a higher low at 9, and now we're seeing a very tight range. So we're going to see a tight break here. You see the volume. Look at the volume declining, showing you that tight range. So the daily time frame, we know a break is imminent, and we zoom in for more details. How's the 4-hour time frame look? Well, I see our most recent low was that 9 level, and the bulls need to break the lower high pattern right now by getting over 10. If we see the bulls break 10, we're going to be looking up at 11, or let's see, the next level would be 11, and it looks like it's rounding here on this chart because it's saying the high and the low are both 11. So it looks like we might need another decimal place here, but 11 and 12 are the next resistance. Because these numbers are so small, we're really going up one tick at a time. And again, same thing with the volume. Look at the volume, just steadily lower highs. You can see this blue line here is the volume average, and it's just down sloping slowly, which tells you that the average volume is dropping off. So if we see a break of 10, we know our higher low is not yet established, and we're going to be looking down back towards 7 and have to form a higher low compared to that level. But in terms of breaking this trend, we need to start forming higher lows and higher highs. That is the trademark of a trend reversal, going from lower highs and lower lows. Here's the hourly. Lower highs and lower lows. Now we need higher lows and higher highs. We have some higher lows established. We don't have higher highs established yet. We have to get over 10. You can see we've rejected from just under 10 now about 4 or 5 times. Stick a resistance line right there, and you can see all those rejections. So close to reversing this trend. But if I were not in a position at this point, I would wait until a break of 10 to initiate that position. So let's now look in on REP. And we'll look at REP USD. And we'll start on the daily time frame. So REP on the daily has been consolidating for a very significant amount of time, and we're trying to change this trend. So we have almost a double bottom down here, 14 and 1375. So it was a lower low, but you can see the bulls are defending that support level with the lower wicks bouncing off of that level. And same thing, we have a clear lower high pattern. We have to break the lower highs. So anything under 2396, our most recent lower high, is just another lower high. And this is a bearish reversal spinning top candlestick that just formed on the daily time frame. So this may be another lower high that it is forming. And then from here, we're going to have to see a higher low form and a break of the lower high. So a new resistance is 2220. So we have to pull back if we are going to consolidate, form another higher low, and then break 2220, or make that, 2220 in order to break the lower high pattern for the bulls to shift this trend. So looking in a little bit more detail, the 4-hour time frame, you can see that it's starting to level off a bit. A very clear long-term downtrend. Now that little double bottom, it's not exactly a double bottom, but it's very close. And now we're starting to see some higher lows, but until we break this resistance, 2396, 2220, until we break those levels, it's just another lower high on this pattern. So both of those names, IOTA and REP, are both really in the same scenario. Let's see what Stratus has going on. We'll look at Stratus and Bitcoin. Start at the daily time frame here as well. So it's a much stronger bounce at this point, and it's still a lower high and lower low pattern. But we have a strong bounce and a decent amount of volume behind that bounce. And look at the clear bearish reversal candlestick. A bearish reversal hammer, inverted hammer, with a big upper wick of profit taking, confirming it this next day, and now we're pulling back a little bit. So here we are consolidating and forming our higher low. And we did break the lower highs. I see a lower high right here at just over 25. And that was a little bounce attempt before continuation to the downside. And we broke that by getting up to 26 here. So now we're going to be looking for higher lows and higher highs to reverse this trend back to favoring the bulls. So we have to keep in mind we are going to consolidate and pull back in this trend, but the volume here, there's some solid bull volume behind this move and some low bear volume on the consolidation. So we are going to be looking now for higher lows and higher highs to begin playing out. And the most recent higher low was the consolidation low down here at 16.6. So on this current consolidation, anything above 16.6 forms a higher low, and we'll keep the bulls in control to try and see this trend reversing. And right now, this trend is more developed in terms of the reversal compared to those other names that I just looked at, IOTA and REP. So the strat bulls have a little bit more reversal underway at this point. So that's what we've got for those big three. Let's look at Golem, because I do cover that fairly often. So Golem in Bitcoin is in a descending triangle pattern, and it is a very clear pattern where we have a horizontal support level where we keep bouncing off of time and time again, and I'm putting my support line here just below the lowest close, so no candlestick closes below this level. And it's also a little bit, I mean, you could make the argument that it is a triangle pattern because there are higher lows here. I'm looking down at 8.8 and 9.2 and then 9.5. So there are some higher lows and lower highs. It's a very clear tightening pattern is the bottom line. And we got resistance at 13.5 and then down to 12.5 and then down to 12.1. So getting closer to a break. And looking at the 4-hour time frame, we can see very clearly the higher low and lower high pattern. So at this point, a bull break would occur over 12.1, and then we would be looking at 12.5, and a bear break would occur if we break 10.5, and then we would be looking down at 10 even. So it's getting very tight here as well. I would draw some trend lines just as visualizations. What I would be looking for is a break of the price levels. I care about the price levels so much more than these trend lines. And these trend lines are just for a visualization, and I wouldn't start it there. I would start it to make sure I can capture all of these higher lows. So that's the pattern that I would just have up to let me know. It's a heads up. I use them as a heads up as to when a lower high or higher low might be breaking. So we can break this downtrend resistance line without breaking the lower high pattern. But once we do break that level, that tells me, okay, pay attention, because we're going to come up and test this lower high previous price level, which is what I care about more than that trend line. So you can make an entry on trend lines breaking, but it's just higher risk and higher reward for that entry. So it looks a little bit cluttered here, but I've got a clear downtrend and clear uptrend line, and then horizontal support and resistance lines with our most recent higher low and our most recent lower high. And that's definitely what I'm going to be watching. So at this point, we're going to open it up to members in the chat room to ask any questions or request any alts that they are looking for. And we'll continue to check in here. We got plenty of time. And I'm obviously going to continue to be monitoring Bitcoin. Wouldn't it be great if we got that break while I was live here? But going to keep an eye on Bitcoin, obviously, because that's my position. But I am always more comfortable when we do see a bounce playing out and seeing our higher low established. So right now the bull's trying to get over 2763 a bit more convincingly to head back up. And I'll anticipate a lower high to form compared to 2806, our recent lower high. And watch this range continue to tighten until about the wee hours of Eastern time zone. So at this point, let's say 4 a.m. is when things are going to be very tight, that they will be very close to a break. So just got a question about the split potential on August 1st, and that is no longer, there's a very minimal percentage chance that can happen. As of right now, the market has completely priced that out. The market has completely priced in that is not going to happen, and August 1st is not a risk. And this is the chart telling you that. This is the reaction to that news. It was a surprise news reaction in terms of when it occurred and everybody regaining their confidence and everybody buying back in. So this is the market pricing in nothing happening August 1st. If something happens August 1st and we do split, we're going to dump. Absolutely, we're going to dump, because the market is not going to be ready for that. It's very low odds, and that's why the market would be surprised if it would happen. The market is always calculating statistical odds of what is going to happen, and this right here is the odds decreasing significantly of any threat of August 1st. I don't have my chart set up for ANS. I'd have to go to Bit or the other websites. They don't have it on TradingView at this point. And I'm not going to try and scramble, and I don't know if I have to set an up account there or what, but I'm going to stick with TradingView for now. So ETC and ETH, ETC based off of ETH here, daily time frame. So we have higher lows and lower highs. You can see everything in the cryptocurrency space right now is pretty much doing the same thing, consolidating, and the vast majority will likely see a break in the same direction. So looking at what we see right now, I'm looking at our recent lower high with resistance down at or up at 976, our higher low at 775. So that's the current range that we are in. And if you want more details, you zoom into the 4-hour time frame to get our more recent higher low and lower high. So 605 support and 81 resistance. And you can see we're fading here. There's not a lot of confidence as we don't have many strong closes. And when we hit these highs, there's big upper wicks of profit taking. So as of right now, I would say the bears do have the upper hand with how we're seeing the past, couple days of trading go. This is not a very strong bounce at this point. And we're on the verge of breaking some of these higher lows. I'm looking at a support here of 675, and we just hit 692. So we're getting close to some breaks. The bulls need to show some more confidence, some more bullish volume. You can see there's not a ton of bullish volume here, and you see a volume spike like this, and you say, oh, well, that's a ton of bullish volume. But then you look at the candlestick, and you see a huge upper wick of profit taking, and you know a lot of that is bearish volume in that candlestick as well. So again, it's not just the color of the volume bar that you need to be paying attention to. It's the shape of the candlestick and the psychology that is going into that as well. So there is definitely profit taking going on. Not really liking this chart in terms of the strength right now. And we just had an inside daily bar break bearish, and we had the higher low daily pattern break bearish as well. So we had a bounce playing out, 4 days in a row of higher lows, and that has now broken. So definitely would be cautious here on ETC, as the bulls don't seem to have too much momentum in the short term. Overall, you zoom out and you say, okay, we're in a solid uptrend over the past, 3 months, 4 months. But just in terms of the past week and a half of trading action, not a ton of bull volume and momentum. SC. So daily time frame here, very similar to Golem, but it's already made a bull break, more so than Golem has. So we had our low, higher low, higher low, lower high, bull break. The bull break, let's zoom in here. Bull break occurred right here at this doji top. That was 351. As soon as 351 broke, we had a couple higher lows, and we broke the lower highs. And look at the volume with that break. Spike in bull volume to the upside. So this is the start of that trend reversal. We had very clear lower highs and lower lows for weeks and weeks. Now we have higher lows and higher highs with a bull MACD cross and a bit of bull volume behind it. Let's see what that looks like on the weekly time frame. So it's an inside bar on the weekly time frame. No clear reversal candles, really. That's a bullish reversal candlestick, but need to see follow through in a bull break of the inside bar to confirm that bullish reversal candlestick. So zooming in for more details, the 4-hour time frame, there's that bull volume kicking in once we broke that lower high pattern right here at 351. And that's the volume being associated with traders seeing that break of resistance and wanting to get in. So we have an uptrend of support line we can be keeping an eye on in terms of higher lows. And the next resistance that we're looking at, the high of this move so far, is 389. And the next resistance is up here, and that is currently up at 4.4. That's the next level. So out of the altcoins that we have looked at, this is one of the better looking charts because everything else is in clear consolidation. This has already broken that consolidation. And granted, ideally, you would have been stalking this trade and prepared for it and entering as soon as 351 breaks, you're in that trade, just like all these other traders with this volume showing that that's what they're doing. And that would have been really quick gains to the upside, almost 10%. That's about 3.8. So that was 10% on that bull break. And now we're consolidating a bit more with inside bars on the hourly or the 4-hour time frame. Checking in on Steem. We'll see how the chart looks. In terms of the fundamentals in the platform, I really like the idea behind it. Not sure if it'll catch on. Odds are that it won't, just because it's going to, it's a very competitive space out there, and it's going to take a lot to reach that point. But I really do like the model behind it, the business model and the fundamentals. So here we had a clear break of resistance as well. So we had a base of support built down here at 0.005, and resistance was up at 7.3 and 7.2, and we broke those levels. Again, increasing bull volume. This is the daily chart, 3 days in a row of increasing bull volume on that break. Now we're consolidating. We will look to form a higher low and then look for this trend to continue. Our current resistance is 778, and then we're looking up at 945 as the next resistance. So there is some nice upside potential. Now we've been in a big time downtrend since we started trading, and in order to break this longer term, I would zoom out to the weekly time frame. And I would say, okay, we're still in a lower high pattern on the longer term weekly outlook. I'm looking at 17 and 10.7. And now anything that we said, any bounce that we see here on the shorter term looks good, but anything under 10.7 is just another lower high on this weekly time frame. So we already made a break of the lower highs on the daily. That's step number 1. Now we have to make a break of the lower highs on the weekly, and that's that level right here up at that 10.7 mark. In terms of getting a question about the exchanges, halting deposit and withdrawal on BTC trading August 1st. If that does occur, definitely it would be an incentive for people to sell. As a day trader, I am way more comfortable cash always, which is why, this trade for Bitcoin that I have been in now for the past 2 days, 3 days is one of the longest holdings I have had in a long time, over a month. So people like me, you better believe we're going to be cash when August 1st comes around. That is definitely a factor. But that being said, we currently have over a week until that is a concern. So that's plenty of time, in my opinion, to continue to see a breakout. We could easily hit a new all-time high and see a 10% move over that all-time high in the next 3-4 days of trading. So I think there is enough time where that August 1st, if exchanges are going to be halting deposit and withdrawal, I do think that there's enough time left that we can still see bullish action. But it is true that fundamentally and psychologically, I do believe that would lead to some selling heading into August 1st. Not nearly as significant as it would be if the fork were still a concern, but it is definitely something in the back of people's minds, and people are just more comfortable either in a different crypto than Bitcoin or in cash. And let's see where we stand on this pattern again. Always in the back of my mind wanting to check in. And this hourly time frame needs to see a break of 2768 to see continuation. And where you can see how tight we're getting. Our higher low, our lower high. And we will be looking for that volume spike over, I'd say, if we get a volume spike over a couple of hours, that will be the indication. It's not just going to be 1 hour of a volume spike. We're going to have to see it consistent over 2 to 3 hours to be a break of this pattern. So we got another 20 minutes here. I guess I'll check in on some YouTube comments if you guys are playing nice. Guys and gals. In terms of the crypto course, it is going to be way different information than the current entries and exits course. I think it's going to be extremely supplemental to it. And it's obviously going to be all focused on the cryptocurrency space. It is going to be essential if you are new to technical analysis. You are going to have to watch that entries and exits course to get the basics of technical analysis, 5-6 hours worth to grasp the trading strategy that I'm going to be talking about in the cryptocurrency space. But in terms of the information, it's going to be completely different. And I'll have, pricing, all that. It's going to be free for members, but we'll get all that figured out later in terms, once I see how long it is, that's all further down the road. So still patiently putting it all together. No rush. Correct, 28.48 is the level to break. And let's try and get some tickers here that more than one person wants to see. BTS, there we go. So BTS, again, always starting on the daily time frame. Same thing, lower high pattern has broken already. And what shows that? Increasing bull volume and a break of the lower highs. So we had a bull attempt to break, topped out at 6435. Lower high topped out at 554. Break, increasing bull volume on the break. Bull MAC decross. Now the bulls are looking for higher lows and higher highs to begin forming and heading back to the upside. So zooming in, 4-hour time frame, more details. Look at that volume behind that move. Clear bull break, and the volume to back it up is all the traders recognize the bull break. And now we're looking for higher lows and higher highs. That being said, you go to the weekly time frame and say, are we changing the trend here? We have a bull trend overall. This is a good sign for the bulls. Huge 1-week spike to the upside, and it took 5 weeks to pull back, and we didn't give all of it back, so we still have a higher low established. But look at the volume behind the bull move, and look at the volume behind 5 weeks of consolidation. And some of that's bull volume as well. You see the upper wicks, just like I said previously, with the lower wick showing bulls buying the dip. This is upper wick showing some bulls pushing up, but then getting squashed down. So you add up all this volume, and I'm not going to be able to do it in my head here. Let's see, a rough estimate. We got 5, 6, 7, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, about 15 million. And we look at the one bull week, 2 billion. That's not right. 1.5 billion. 1.5 billion consolidation, 2 billion to the upside. So 5 weeks of consolidation did not see the volume we saw in that one big bull breakout week. And look at the bullish reversal candlestick and look at the volume behind it. It's the highest candlestick volume that we have seen in the past 5 weeks. So this is a good sign for the bulls, but they need confirmation. We need another green candlestick to confirm this bullish reversal candlestick and let us know that our higher low has been established down at 4378. That is a must-hold level. If we were to break that level, I would absolutely be out of a position. And now we need to see a break of 7-1 and continuation with a solid green week. We're just starting the week now, and we have 7 trading days. Need to see follow-through. In terms of taxation, I'm personally paying my taxes on everything quarterly because I have to pay estimated taxes each quarterly being self-employed. But it's once you withdraw, once the money trail is there, you know, leaving your account, coming back into your account in terms of your bank account, that's really when it's visible if you were to get audited. And I don't want to get audited, and I want to have all my ducks in a row, so I am paying every penny that I owe and not having to think about it and not trying to get slapped with some bill, you know, 3-5 years down the road. Nothing worse than that. So I suggest everybody pay your taxes. OMG did see some hype. I'll check that out. So OMG is in blue sky breakout mode. Here's the daily time frame. How about that? That's a pretty big move. Seeing, you know, over 100% gain. We are going to consolidate, and the consolidation is going to be fast. Although at this point, this is healthy consolidation, and I can say that because of the declining bear volume and the lower wick showing bulls buying the dip. What signaled the top? Not a bearish reversal candlestick, a volume climax, the highest volume hour that we have ever seen in the history of OMG signaled the top. So volume climaxes often signal the top of an uptrend and the bottom of a downtrend. So here we're looking for a higher low to be established. I'm looking at 135 and 135. We have a little double low, 2 of the last 3 trading days. So that is the level that must hold. If I were in a position right now, I would absolutely exit if 135 broke, because that would tell me our higher low has not been established and we have to pull back and form a new higher low. And of course, if you're long term and not trading, then that's a different scenario. So zooming in on more details, 4-hour time frame. We're just starting this consolidation. Again, the volume climax is very clear on that 4-hour. But let's zoom in a little bit more and see if this looks like a bull flag. And it's not really a clear bull flag. Well, let's see. Might as well draw it and see what it looks like. Always looking for a parallel channel on a bull flag, and this, because of these big dips, it's not. It's expanding. So that's what you need to be cautious about with, you know, these blue sky breakout runs. They're huge gains to the upside, but when profit taking does occur, you know, in this 20-minute span, we went from 160 to 152, and that's actually not too significant. That's not bad at all. It looks bad here on the 5-minute time frame, but an 8-cent slippage, no biggie. So the bulls are still in control. I'm not seeing many red flags here at all, or any red flags. Bear volume is fine. There's some solid bear volume, but it's not significant. And I'd say the bulls are still in control, and breaking 135 would change that, but as long as 135 holds, bulls are looking good. Checking back in on the members in the chat room, EOS. So EOS on the daily time frame, also very little trading history. Huge move to the upside on the new coin. And checking in, need more details. Daily's not giving us much. So there's our clear higher low. Must hold 180 to keep the higher low pattern intact. Cautious here, look at the volume. That volume should be a bit alarming. Not alarming, but let us know that maybe our top is in for now. That is increasing bear volume. The highest volume candlestick that we've seen on the 4-hour time frame was pretty much all bear volume. So that tells me that we're likely to see some lower highs and potentially lower lows form now. So this is a potential bearish reversal head and shoulders pattern as well. We've got our left shoulder, our head potentially forming this right shoulder, You could use a couple lines for the neckline of support, and that's a really ugly drawing, but you get the visualization. This is the neckline support that I would be using, 180. Other people I know, if they want to be more protective of profits, they would use the uptrend line, the ascending neckline here. So if this were to break, they would be able to save some profit by not letting it drop all the way to 180. Let's say it breaks in the next 3 hours. That would be, about 187 or so. But we could still form a higher low. We could break this uptrend line, bounce off 183, and then see continuation. So for me, it's the price action that matters, not the trend line as much. And it's 180 that would be a clear bear break, and it would confirm this bearish reversal head and shoulders pattern on the 4-hour time frame for me. Checking it on the hourly time frame for a bit more detail. Looks a little bit more like a head and shoulders on this one. But if we see a break and continuation over $2, that would negate this pattern. You can see $2 was our high of the left shoulder. $2 is the high of our right shoulder. And we're making our way back up towards that level. We'll see if the bulls can break it. XRP. Red flag here. Looks like we hit a new all-time low, 13.2 and 12.66. So that's never a good sign. All-time low. Opposite of a blue sky breakout is a black dirt breakdown. That's trademarked by me. Not really, but spread that. I want that to catch. So lower highs and lower lows is the place, or is the play right now. We don't have any higher lows. I mean, this is a little higher low. I want to see a more clear level of consolidation building a base, not just one red candlestick. I want to see, a few red candlesticks, a higher low clearly established, and then higher highs. So right now we've got resistance of 218, and our lower high with this doji was just 207. So 218, 207, need the higher low and higher high pattern to reverse this trend because we are coming off of an all-time low, and that's never a good thing. So this is probably one of the most bearish altcoin charts that we have looked at just because of where we are coming from and because the fact that we have not broken a higher low. We have not broken the lower high, lower low pattern yet. We're trying to, but not there yet. More upside tonight. Comparing Bitcoin and Ethereum. Let's just do a quick recap here. So I have seen scenarios over the past few days where the correlation of Ethereum and Bitcoin has shifted a bit, where 2 days ago there was someone loading up on Bitcoin. Like I said, they were sticking up, 200 to 400 BTC on the ask and then putting in big bids. And what I mean by loading on the bids is if you put let's say you want to buy 100 Bitcoin. If you put 100 Bitcoin on the bid, people are not going to sell into that bid because they're going to say, oh, wow, that's a big support wall. We're going to go higher. I'm going to hold off and sell my Bitcoin at a higher price on the ask. Now, if I want that 100 Bitcoin, I'm going to put 5 Bitcoin on the bid. And when it gets filled, I'm going to put another 5. And then when that gets filled, I'm going to put another 5. And that way, people are selling into that 5 because they're saying, oh, man, there's not much support below here. I want to get out and get my money while I can. And then it just keeps reappearing. And that happened time and time again. Someone loaded hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of Bitcoin 2 days ago, or it might have even been yesterday. I'm getting my weekend days confused. I believe it was yesterday. And they were loading up, and that bid would disappear and go down to zero, and then it would get refilled and refilled. And then once, it got refilled to a certain extent, that 200 to 400 wall on the ask would disappear. And so that person got their hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of Bitcoin, and then the price, continued to go up a bit. So that is action that only adds to me being confident that people are loading up, getting ready for a new all-time high. That being said, at the same time that was happening, the whole point of why I just went into that little story is because that 400 wall was there, keeping the price contained and having that person load up on the bid, ETH broke out at that same period of time and saw, an $8 move to the upside while Bitcoin didn't do anything. So someone was keeping Bitcoin contained, the correlation between the two broke, and Ethereum wasn't being held down and saw a bull break where Bitcoin did not. So that's a scenario where it was better to be in Bitcoin at that moment in time for those, let's say it was a 2-hour spike. In terms of where we're heading overnight, pending those unforeseen circumstances where I couldn't, tell you if someone's going to keep the price contain down with a big ask and break the correlation. If the correlation stays the same and we see a bull break on both, let's go with percentages. So we've got 28.16 is the level that would be a clear bull break, and then I would be looking up at 28.70. So 28.16 to 28.70, that is a $54 gain on 28.16. So that is a 1.9% move, and we look at Ethereum, and we get the same time frame pattern, and I see that the bulls need to break 233, and the same resistance level comparatively where Bitcoin was that I just looked at would be 238. So that's 5 out of 233, and it's 0.2% more. So slightly more upside, I guess, if we're just looking at that one level. But that being said, if we're looking at, a multiple day breakout, let's say the bulls get some solid bull momentum and a multiple day breakout, as soon as Bitcoin hits a new all-time high, I would absolutely always rather be in an all-time high name no matter what. There is no resistance. The price goes so much further for so much less money. And like I said, I'm looking for, if we do get an all-time high, I'm looking for a 10% move in the following couple of days after that all-time high, if not, in the next 24 hours once that all-time high is hit, if that does play out. Whereas Ethereum, where similar to Bitcoin, if Bitcoin breaks 3,000, that's essentially Ethereum breaking 250. I can pick out so many resistance levels here. I got resistance at 253.31. I've got resistance at 267.74, 275. So 10% out after 250 would be 275. I honestly, the short answer is I don't think it's going to be a huge difference. Historically, with trading stocks and trading the cryptocurrency space, I would always rather choose the blue sky breakout name because the risk to reward is higher in the blue sky name in terms of reward. But I don't think it's going to be a significant difference if the correlation stays the same as it has the vast majority of the time in this space with the big three. So let's see here, another 5 minutes or so, checking back in on these YouTubers. DGB. Nice break. Nice volume. So daily time frame, breaking the lower high pattern. And you can see again, it's just so clear that these names are so correlated to themselves. Correlated to each other, I should say. So there's a base of support. We formed a low at 364, a higher low at 419, and a break of the lower high pattern. What was the signal? Volume. A volume spike on a break of the lower high pattern. For me, it would be a break of this level right here of 539. That's your signal. And it occurred on this day. And let's get some more details zoomed in. I want to see where it broke on the hourly time frame and where the volume came in. And it's that exact level. 479 and 5 breaking. And then that's when the volume poured in. Higher lows and higher highs. So the bulls are in full control, but we are pretty extended to the upside. You look at the 4-hour time frame, and I already know the RSI is going to be high just by looking at the other levels. So the RSI is starting to cool off. Look at these perfect inside bars. Look at, that is just, that's the kind of the setup that just makes you all tingly inside as a technical analyst. Inside bar, inside bar, inside bar, declining volume. As soon as we break the high of the inside bar of 6.4, that's your go signal. And in 4 hours time, we go from 6.4 up to 7.4. Significant gains to the upside. You cannot have a more clear pattern than that. These inside bars are great. They don't always work. They very often work. And they tilt the odds in your favor significantly. And they make things so darn simple. Look how simple this pattern is. You just make an entry when the lower high pattern is broken, when the inside bar breaks to the upside. And now we're doing it. Well, actually, we're not doing it again. This is not an inside bar currently forming. We're consolidating. It's normal, healthy consolidation on low bear volume. And there is no red flags at this point in terms of breaking this trend. Just being aware, however, the 4-hour chart is likely due for some further consolidation because that RSI is so high. So if I were in a trade right now, in order to protect my profit, I would exit if this level breaks of 677, because that would tell me that lower highs and lower lows are likely coming. And we would have to form a higher low, and the next clear higher low would be all the way down here at 561. So 677 to 561 is a significant drop, which is why I would want to protect my profit if this level were to break, which, if I had to guess by looking at the 4-hour RSI, I would say it is more likely than not that we are going to break that support level. I've been doing technical analysis for, about 8 years at this point, between 7 and 8. I already talked about my risk to reward ratio a bit earlier, and I'm going to talk about it more in depth in the course in terms of how to calculate it. And I think that's actually the next slide that I have to work on, and I'm going to get back to it tonight right when I finish wrapping this up. And I'm just now realizing that it is dark and I need to go close up the chicken coop and tuck everybody in before this black bear comes roaming around again. Good way to keep track of profits on trades. Just get a spreadsheet. And personally, I love a piece of paper and a pencil. And I had, just day by day, every day I would check in, sometimes twice a day if I was really active, and I would just update things. I would write, what amount of dollars did I start with? How much do I currently have? How much do I have on Polo in my alts? What's my current profit to date? And what's my anticipated tax payout? Because those taxes add up. If you are a day trader, absolutely those taxes add up at about 28%. But if you're a long-term holder, it's much less than that. I'm not sure the exact number. I very rarely keep anything long. I believe it's 15%. Maybe it's 10, but I think it's 15. Either way, I've said it earlier where if I were buying and holding, as so many people, say to do, which if you are not familiar with trading and you're trying to do it on the fly, absolutely buying and holding is a safer play because you will lose money if you're just trying to wing it. But if I had just bought Ethereum and held it from my current initial entry, right now I would be up, let's see, it was at about $80. So I would be up just under 200%. Let's call it 190. And in reality, I'm up over 400% because I've been trading. I've been jumping into all these other names. So for me, the tax penalty, so to speak, in terms where I'm paying more because I'm day trading, that's clearly not significant compared to what gains I have been able to get because I have been day trading. So I don't even think twice about whether, taxes are in effect. And same thing with market orders and fees. There are times where I've paid many, many hundreds of dollars in fees on one trade, and I don't even think twice about it if, the profit is much more significant. That's all that I care about. So it's about perspective for everything. If it's justified in terms of the amount of profit, then the fees and the taxes are not that significant. So thanks everybody for tuning in. I am going to get going here, and I'll check back in with another video either tomorrow or Tuesday, although if that break does occur, I will check back in tomorrow, which I assume it will, so I assume I will see you tomorrow. I appreciate everybody watching. I'll keep everybody up to date on that course. Again, it's weeks away, and we'll have all the details in plenty of time, and I will be sure and let everybody know all about it. I hope you have a great rest of your Sunday night, and I will see everybody in the near-term future.